Elijah goes to Mount Horeb, where we read in the first book of Kings, where he takes refuge in a cave. Right? While he was there, the Lord speaks to Elijah and tells him to go outside and stand and wait for him, to wait for his presence. And soon after that, there came a violent wind, which shattered rocks and shook the mountains. But the Lord was not there. Then came a violent earthquake, but the Lord was not there either. Then came a fire, but God was not in the fire. Eventually, the Lord did come in a still, quiet breeze. Without a doubt, this story about the prophet Elisha demonstrates to us what it means to learn the practice of silence in our lives, to learn to give importance to the interior life. And many of us, because of the coronavirus, are not at work or in school. So this is a great time to work on our interior life with God, to have, we have a lot of free time on our hands right now. We read in the gospel that our Lord Jesus Christ leads the apostles away, so to separate themselves from the people who were at the time very excited because our Lord had just performed the miracle of the multiplication of the loaves. Christ makes them withdraw themselves to be alone. Modern man, as Cardinal Sarah says, who is the author of a really great book called Silence, said that the modern world cannot be understood if one does not understand that it is a constant fight against the interior life of man. For instance, everyone has a phone nowadays, which they are not bad in themselves. However, they are often used against our interior life, not only because they can lead us into evil, to sinning, but because they can distract us if we do not use them as we should. Many things, many applications are designed to hook us, to ensnare us. As it says in another book called Hooked, the whole book explains how we don't have to completely stop using these potential distractions, but we have to know how to distance ourselves from them. A necessary distance. Again, I'm not saying that these things are bad, but we have to give priority to the interior life. Because if we don't give importance to the interior life, to silence in our life, in some moments of the day, for prayer, to read a spiritual book, it is going to be impossible for us to recognize the presence of the Lord, especially when we are deprived of the sacraments, as many of the faithful are right now. St. John Paul II said, "We need silence to find that presence of the Lord and to be in His presence with constant, continuous adoration, within our abilities, of course, right? Otherwise, we are not going to be able to, as St. Peter was, to look at the Lord on the waters and say to Him, 'Lord, if it is You, bid me come to You.'" Right? We're going to be so distracted that we're not going to even be able to recognize the Lord. Therefore, let us think a little bit about whether the use of the means of communication is controlling or distracting us from what is necessary. If we are leaving out that moment of silence that is so necessary for us to give ourselves to the Lord, to the reading of His Word, to prayer, etc. So we ask Mary, who practiced really a perfect silence, who kept those things of the gospel, that presence of the Lord in her heart, and meditated on them, that she may help us and give us the grace to be able to live in the world, but not be totally of the world, to put the necessary distance between us and the things that move us away from the Lord.